Hello and welcome to Mr. Husband, the podcast where we talk about a host of manly issues from a husband's perspective. My name's Gabe.
And this is Will.
Will, it's good to be back.
Yeah.
Our listeners you won't be aware of this because we post pretty much every Tuesday, but it's been like, how long since we recorded?
Yeah, it's been a full week and a half. No, 2 weeks. It's been 2 weeks.
Because usually we have like a reservoir of content, and we used it all up because Will was apparently sick last week.
I had a little bit of the cold. I don't know what it was like. It's funny because no one else had it, but it's a crazy headache. My throat was hurting, but it's passed. So we're back in the studio trying to catch up. And yeah, most people I feel like won't really notice it unless we have like some diehard listener who was sitting in front of their computer at like 7 a.m. waiting for us to release and post, and they were severely disappointed this morning if they were doing that.
And I'm sure we do. So apologies, loyal listener.
Yeah, sorry guys for getting sick.
I do have I have a little bit of fear that you were recording podcasts with some other guy, like
it's like a separate like husband series.
Yeah, maybe you're trying out, seeing what the other options are.
Yeah, you guys just got to test the waters, but
Ooh.
No, that was not the case. The only thing I was trying to figure out last week was how to recover from this crazy cold or summer cold.
But it's good. You didn't make me sick. You didn't make our listeners sick.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, I don't want to like spread the germs, get in the studio here and get it to you, and that would have been a mess. So
we've closed the doors in the studio. We have the AC running in the background, which hopefully the audience can't hear. But the point is, like, everything's getting circulated. So if you have any sickness left within you, I'm going to get it. Okay.
But it's good. No, it's good to be back. Yeah, it's good to just kind of jump back into the podcasting.
Do you notice that I'm healthier? I've been like hiking every day.
Yeah, you mentioned like all last week, you just went every day. You went hiking, right?
Every day.
And what's like the regimen? Is it like 30 minutes just up and down the stairs? Do you do like different sequences, different tempos?
I listen to music and I try to step to the beat up the stairs. Nice. And I try to do at least 3, maybe 4 sets of these stairs in Culver City.
Is it crowded when you go? Because you go in the mornings, right?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's a bit of a scene. There's like some beautiful people out there to try to motivate you. And then there's like some people who are in less shape than you who can, you feel better about yourself than them. So it's great.
I feel like there's a fair number of people who like go to these hikes purely for the enjoyment or the purposes of like capturing a selfie moment. Like they can post it to Instagram.
There's a lot of people...
But I'm not sure they're really doing fitness.
No, yeah, I don't know. People, like, you get to the bottom of the stairs, there's this giant set of stairs. It's like you're climbing up 35 stories or something. So it makes for a great Instagram photo.
Yeah, right?
But it's a very similar Instagram photo, so everyone has it.
Everyone has the same one. Like the same thing. I go to Runyon Canyon here, like on rare occasions. Every time I go, it's just another person with the exact same sort of pose. And I know the exact spot where everyone does it. Like you're overlooking the cliffs of the sort of basin of Los Angeles, and like everyone's taking a photo right there.
See, I don't bother taking those photos because at the very worst, I could just Photoshop my head on someone else's photo. And you're like at my funeral, if they want to be like, "Oh, Gabe loved hiking," just find someone else's photo on Instagram and Photoshop my head onto it.
And Gabe was there.
Just pick some dude with like nice muscles and stuff.
Well, speaking of hiking and fitness and all that, we are in the throes of the Olympics, the 2016 Olympics at Rio here.
Woohoo!
I'm like talking as if like we're actually in Rio, but we're not.
We're not.
We're here in Los Angeles. But yeah, I mean, like the Olympics are in full force. How have you guys been kind of watching it, keeping up with it?
We've been trying, it's on like the tape delay stuff, but I discovered the NBC app, which allows me to watch like every single event live.
Oh, is that like live programming?
That's amazing. So yeah, it's great every 4 years to get really into obscure sports that you could care less about it's, and like at first you kind of feel like, it's like, at first I was wowed, like watching gymnastics, but then quickly after listening to the announcers like nitpick every little imperfection, suddenly I am like super critical of like these amazing feats.
Yeah, man, I feel a little bit weird about the Olympics because coming into it, like weeks and months of bad press, right? Everyone's kind of really crapping on the Olympics in terms of, the health scares and just the organizers not being prepared.
Yeah.
And, to some extent, as a casual, I guess, viewer of Olympics, like, I was a little turned off by that. I was like, well, if they don't have their act together, what's the point of watching this? But I will say Like I completely missed the opening ceremony, so I didn't even know what happened there. And the first week, I think like the swimming stuff was like a big event, and then the gymnastics. And
There's like
I got
way too
sucked
many
in.
medals though for swimming. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, there's just way too many events.
Yeah. They have like every little subset. It's not fair.
I was like, wait, didn't Michael Phelps win that one last night? But then no, it's like a different variation of what he did. So
No, this one was 50 meters longer. Oh, okay. But I mean,
sorry to interrupt, which I feel like it's crazy that between like a 50 meter freestyle versus a 100-meter, like you actually have different athletes, like different swimmers, like from the US who are doing those events. And you would think like if one's good at 50 or the 100, why wouldn't they just do the 50? But
specialization.
Yeah, I
it's
guess
a
that's what
modern
it is.
world. But I do find myself to make it relevant to our listeners as a father to be.
Mm-hmm.
I do find myself daydreaming about like being the parent of an Olympian, and like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that like I should put my child in some sort of sport, maybe an obscure one, so they're likely to succeed. Maybe they should like compete as a Canadian because there's a smaller country with less people, so it's a little easier to qualify. Right? So I put them in like sailing or air gun or like just something that isn't saturated with talent.
Sure.
And my child can go to the Olympics and I can be one of those like fans and the dads in the crowd that they cut away to.
Yeah.
Like be dancing and stuff.
Yeah, I wonder. I don't. If I was in a situation, I don't know which sport. Like, what if you were in the Olympics?
Mm-hmm.
Is there something that you would want to do?
I haven't. Swimming does seem cool. I think something individual so that I get all the credit for my success.
Kudos to Gabe.
Nothing like a team. Although, actually, wait, I think we would make a pretty good beach volleyball team.
Yeah, we should try that. We should go play beach volleyball. We should try and make it for when's the next one? The 2020 Olympics.
Yeah.
Gabe and Will, beach volleyball.
We have been talking about nothing for about 7 minutes, so I think we should get to the content of the episode because this is a spicy episode, Will.
This one's a little risque, man. I think we're putting ourselves out. We're putting ourselves out there as a target.
We are. Do you want to reveal the topic?
I don't know. I don't know if I do, but I guess we should. So today we want to talk about this idea of infidelity or cheating on one another with your spouse.
Thank you for using a less complicated word than infidelity.
I like
cheating.
the word infidelity.
We're talking about cheating.
It's a very technical term, infidelity. But yeah, we're talking about cheating. And, I had come across this quiz that's online. Would encourage every married couple to go take this quiz. But it asks you like 20 to 30 questions. It's on truthaboutdeception.com. We'll post it on Facebook. And you go there and you just like answer a series of questions. Everything from like, are you a male, female? How old are you? Like, how much time do you spend with your spouse? And at the very end, it produces this value, this indexed number, which tells you how likely you are to cheat. And Gabe, you and I both took this quiz.
I'm proud to reveal that I got a moderate score of, I think it was 43.
Yeah, you got 43
out of 100, and you got.
I think I was just the same thing, like 42.
You got 42, so I was 1% more likely to cheat. But we're right in the middle.
Yeah,
we're neither likely nor unlikely to cheat.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that.
Man, well, the thing is like those sites. I don't know if it does a very good job of like telling you your score relative to everyone else. Like 42 might be as like low as most people get.
That's true.
So who knows? We could be at the bottom of the cheating pool.
We could be.
But so we took this quiz. That was kind of interesting. I have yet to ask Christine. I don't know if you asked Vera to take it, but
no.
I kind of want to see what Christine gets.
Yes, I am curious to see what Vera gets as well.
So maybe I'll have her do that this week.
That would have been good to do prior to the episode, but oh well. We should probably like define cheating though. Like, what is cheating, Will?
Well, cheating, I think there's a couple things, right? So one is sort of this like physical interaction, right? You actually have sex with someone else, could even be kissing. I think that some people might even think of like inappropriate hugging as a form of cheating, right? And so there's like this physical element to it.
But that's like a 3-second act. Like, is that enough time to cheat? I could accidentally grope someone.
You accidentally could, but...
Can you accidentally cheat?
Yeah. So there's like this physical element. I think the other side of it's probably like a little bit more serious, at least from my perspective, which is like more of a romantic tie, like an emotional sort of like attachment you get with someone. Which I feel like that usually means it ends up being more physical anyways. So for me, that's a bigger red flag.
So physical stuff and emotional stuff, that's cheating. Okay.
Yeah. What about you? How would you?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, like, yeah, anything that you wouldn't do to like a relative would
Aunt
be
Betsy.
cheating. Yeah, that would, yeah, then it's cheating. But not all cheating is the same, Will. We'll get into that.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, I think one of the things that it's probably like worth mentioning is like when it comes to cheating, one of the things that I think some people observe, most people don't really talk about or recognize is it's somewhat in our DNA just as human beings. And it goes back to this idea that way back when we were like early humanoids, like we just slept with as many people as we could purely for the sake of like survival, like passing on your genes and having offsprings. And if you do that for like millennia, like thousands of years, like part of that does get engraved into your DNA. So I think it's just like part of human nature to some extent. Not that that's an excuse, but I think that.
But it is.
But I think that
sounds like an excuse.
I think it can help explain to some degree why that might happen. And then I did find there was like an interesting statistic here, which is roughly 30 to 60% of married adults will cheat at some point in their marriage.
See, I saw this stat too. How on earth do you have reliable stats? Like if say you did cheat and someone came to you and was like, "Hi, I'm from the United Nations. I'm just doing a little survey." Are you going to be like, "Oh yeah, I cheated"?
Yeah,
no, I'm going to be like, "No, maybe my wife is having someone pose as a UN ambassador or whatever to do this quiz."
Could be. Well, here's the other thing. It's like they say 30 to 60%, and I should probably have written down like where this source is from, but it's from some sort of supposedly reliable source, right?
It was on the internet.
Yeah. If it's on the internet, it's reliable for sure. But so 30 to 60% are like supposed people who report this or say that they've cheated. Mm-hmm. But let's be honest, the number is probably significantly higher than that. Because what percentage of the population who cheats is actually going to profess and raise their hands and be like, yeah, I cheated. So I don't know. We might be talking like 50 to 80% of married people.
Wow.
It's pretty damn crazy. But I'm kind of curious.
I feel like we both need to say neither of us have cheated on our wives. It's on the record.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way.
Yeah. Because right now Vera's like driving in her car to work and she's listening to this podcast. So, hi, baby. I haven't cheated. Booyah.
Booyah. Neither have I. So let's not let those imaginations run wild.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get onto this idea of, like what increases the likelihood of cheating? Like, what do you think are the factors that actually contribute to someone cheating?
So this is what was really interesting in taking the quiz, because you can see where it starts. Like, I thought it would ask you things like, do you love your wife or whatever? But a lot of the questions were like, how much time do you spend away from your wife? Do you travel without your wife? Does she travel without you? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's one of them, which is like being in situations where it's possible to cheat. For instance, Vera and I spend a lot of time on the couch watching Netflix by ourselves. Very hard to cheat in that situation, right?
Yeah.
Low probability. So we've really like baked into our lifestyle it's very difficult, very challenging to cheat.
Like you're stuck at the hip almost.
Yeah.
You don't give yourselves the opportunity to cheat.
Yeah.
Which I think is like an important thing because I do feel like most people who cheat, it is for the most part like situationally driven. Like there's this opportunity or like they're in a moment or there's like this situation that kind of opens its doors to allow for cheating. Because it's not as if like a cheater, unless you're a serial cheater, which I guess you could be a serial cheater.
Shout out to our serial cheater listeners.
Unless you are a serial cheater, it's not as if a person just wakes up one day and goes, ooh, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to cheat on my wife.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Like I'm going to cheat on my husband.
Yeah.
So like you don't wake up thinking that thought, but like in the course of a day or whatever might happen, like you might be just put in a situation. So I think it's like very much situationally motivated.
You can always blame it on alcohol.
There's that too. The influence of drugs and alcohol. I think that's a big contributor. And then I would totally agree with the whole like being time apart is probably another big factor. I think one of the interesting ones is actually this notion of like buildup of power and confidence. And I was reading in one of the articles that, you know, someone who, let's say you're like you're in a relationship, and whether it be a guy or a girl, typically I think this is more so the case for the guy. Like, if you've done something to yourself so that you look more attractive, or you've gained a certain status,
Like you hiked every day for a week.
if you're like Gabe and you hike every day, and or you reach a certain status, or you've gathered some sort of possession that sort of elevated you.
If you're better than your partner.
Yeah, like then you have like this power trip almost, and it gives you this, I don't know, like false sense of impression that you can like go and do whatever you want. And maybe it's because like when you're out now, more people are like looking at you or like paying more attention to you. And again, I think this comes back to a little bit of inherent human DNA and habits. Like we all like that. We all like the fact that if we're out there in the streets and someone finds us attractive, like we're like, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
And you crave it.
Hell yeah.
So there's people like, there are those situations too.
But maybe we should just eat more McDonald's and not tempt.
So maybe McDonald's is doing good in this world.
Yeah.
preventing breakups and cheating. But yeah, that's what I would kind of add on to that.
And just like the general unhappiness of your marriage, I would say. Like a lot of people, and this might be more of a man thing, but actually probably not at all. If you're not happy in your marriage, sometimes you might be, you might cheat before you kind of either break it off or really address the issues. Mm-hmm. You know, you kind of want, you want to either ignore it or you want something to blame it on.
I wonder, all things being equal between a husband and a wife, if both of them are unhappy with their marriage, who would be most likely to cheat or the first to cheat?
I think it's like the guy is more likely to physically cheat, and the woman is more likely to
go like seek,
emotionally cheat.
Right. Go like seek companionship elsewhere.
That's my generalization.
I think it's a fair assessment.
So like, would you say there's a difference between like, are there different types of cheating, Will? Like, are all affairs the same?
No. You know what? I had an interesting conversation with Christine about this. It was funny because I was like, oh, would there ever be a circumstance in which if I cheated, like you would either forgive me or give me a second chance?
Oh, like a zombie apocalypse, I think. Any sort of apocalyptic scenario. If the world's ending, I think like you're allowed to cheat.
All the rules are out the book.
Yeah, the world is literally ending.
I don't think Christine would actually be okay with that still. But no, she and I were having this conversation, and we did come to this conclusion that for her, potentially, like a physical, like if I got into like more of a physical cheating scenario, that could potentially be forgivable. I guess given some special circumstance, more so than like if I got like met someone else.
Yeah,
I got like emotionally attached.
More
like,
so than if you had another family like in Utah that she had never met.
Yeah,
that would be a little harder to overcome.
Yeah, that would be a shocker, and probably not something that she could ever forgive.
I think that's like a good distinction, though, and I totally agree with that, which is that not all affairs, not all cheating is the same. It's actually wildly different. Mm-hmm. And no, of course, this isn't to say that any form of cheating is good or okay. But I mean, if it's an impulsive thing done at a very dark time and you regret it the next day and it's just about like sex,
right?
That's wildly different than, hey, I've been deceiving you for a year, ongoing, and I really care about this other person. I don't care about you anymore. I mean, that doesn't sound so good.
Yeah. You know, one additional sort of rub to these sorts of scenarios is if you had a kid. Like Christine actually said, if we had a kid,
then you got to stay together.
Yeah, like whoever cheated or whoever got cheated on, like you kind of like give in a little bit more in terms of giving it another shot. Because you kind of want to do it for the sake of the kid. Like you don't want to separate, or get a divorce because of that. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Would you always want to know if you were cheated on? Like I think about this a lot. Like would I want to know? Like say hypothetical partner cheats one night at some conference, or they're at some conference and they do something bad.
Yeah.
They feel really horrible about it, but they know you're going to feel really bad too. Should they tell you?
They should. I think so. I think I would want to know. Because I feel like if whether let's just say again, like hypothetically, if Christine cheats on me, I think if she held it from me and I didn't know, and like it just kind of sat with her, like that's going to impact and influence our relationship even more, like negatively. I feel like because she's kind of holding it in, and that may lead her to do other stuff. I'm not saying like it may lead her to cheat more, but maybe like she'll just act a little bit weird around me, or like not be as open because she has this big secret that she can't tell me.
I was gonna say I didn't want to know, but after hearing your answer, okay.
Well, going like why wouldn't you want to know?
Well, if like the person truly regretted it, I feel like it would change the way that I saw them forever. Right? Like, and maybe that's not such a good thing. I mean, I suppose there's a scenario where I might love them more because they're more honest with me and like we grow closer and everything.
Yeah.
I'm figuring out right on the air right now. I mean, I don't know the answer, Will.
Yeah, I think the reality is there isn't a right answer. I'm sure there's plenty of guys and girls who don't want to know. And I think that's perfectly fine too. I just think of it from a perspective of whoever cheated, whether it's the husband or the wife, there will be a part of them that like it's going to eat them up inside a little bit. Unless maybe you somehow...
Well, let it eat them up. They cheated.
Yeah, I guess so. That's the punishment, I guess. But I think because of that reason, I would want to know.
Okay.
It'll impact other parts of the relationship.
That does seem very mature.
Okay, so what do you do if you were cheated on? And does this mean that you can cheat too? Well, let's answer that second question. So...
Vera cheats on me. Yeah, I think I get at least one. Like,
is it a 1-for-1 deal?
Yeah, it's like, well, if she cheats on me and I forgive her, years later, if I cheat on her, kind of feel like, baby, you gotta let this slide. You gotta let it slide.
I feel like if Christine cheated on me, and I forgave her, I feel like I might take the opportunity. This is semi-joking. Actually, there's a lot joking. But what if I like...
But it's like 10% not joking.
Yeah, it's like 10%. What if I like took the opportunity in the moment...
Yeah.
While she was feeling really bad, really guilty, to just like outright say, hey, honey, like, is it cool if I just like sleep with someone for one night? You know?
Yeah.
Just to kind of make things even?
What I love about that scenario... I mean, this is no diss on you. But like... As a guy, like say Vera was like, oh yeah, okay, fine. You get like a week. I don't even know how I would get anyone. Like, it's just so much harder for a guy.
It's true. You just hire someone.
Yeah, I guess.
But it is
like,
interesting.
Maybe I need to borrow some money.
Hey, Vera, I need $200
just a heads up, you're gonna see something on the Visa bill. Just let it go.
Oh man. But yeah, I think that'd be kind of interesting. It's a 1-for-1.
But yeah, I guess what you do if you are cheated on, this would be a good reason to talk with one another. You can always involve a professional, which makes me think that cheating is expensive because like the government is not going to cover this psychiatrist, this marriage counselor.
Right.
You're going to pay money now.
Yeah, out of the pocket.
So it's definitely frugal to be faithful.
Yeah. It's a good deterrent.
Yeah.
Not to cheat. The fact that it's inexpensive. Well, and if you end up in divorce, that's like a whole nother thing with like, dividing the assets and all that. It's like a headache.
Unless your wife has a lot more money than you, then it could be quite lucrative.
Then it could be. Although if you cheat, then you don't get any of it.
I should research this. I don't even know if that's true, actually.
No.
Probably depends on the state. If only we knew a lawyer who we could ask.
I will ask Christine tonight. Okay. And how about, so does cheating ruin a marriage?
I think it could,
yes.
But it doesn't necessarily, which I think is a big takeaway.
Like it doesn't have to, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine a scenario where it's like the canary in the coal mine that like reveals maybe some deeper issues that it's important as a couple to work through. Like ultimately, I think your relationship is about like the totality of all of the days you spent together. and okay, you might have a dark point or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, instead, like I would say, resist the temptation to immediately divorce.
Right.
And work at it. Maybe you'll be better off for it. Not that you should cheat to do it, but
Right.
But you can get over it, people.
And actually, now that I think about it, when you get married, I feel like for most couples, like you're at the wedding, right?
Oh, you say the vow.
Yeah, you say the vow. So like, how can you actually come to the decision to separate? Like, you got to work through it, through the good, the bad, right?
Yeah.
So anyone who's out there cheating or have been cheated on,
well, it depends on the
don't
vow.
give up.
It depends on the vow.
Yeah, and that's. But I'm saying, like, I feel like most couples have that particular clause in their statement.
Yeah,
like, for good or bad, like we'll stick it out together. But yeah, I don't think it has to ruin a marriage. I think once one person does cheat, obviously it becomes significantly harder to trust them, and that's something you have to like rebuild. But I think it's also like it's your own comeback movie, right? If you got cheated, like just you as a couple, if like there was a scenario where there was cheating happening, that's like the apex of the dark part of the story, and now it's about the comeback. It's about the comeback story, right? That's what we got to work on. You can't just give up.
No. Unless you don't have kids, and then you could move on. But
do it for the kids.
Yeah. Where were we? What's the next thing to cover?
So let's see. Why don't we get to? Okay, I kind of want to talk about how cheating might impact friendships. And one of the things I was kind of suggesting to you was, if you have mutual friends between the husband and the wife, and the husband or the wife, one of them cheats, like what does it do in terms of your ability to continue to hang out with these friends? Like, are you going to force them to pick sides? And I think about this because
a draft. You should draft the friends.
It's a lottery system.
Yeah, flip a coin to see who goes first, and then just draft.
Daniel, you're in the number one position. Which side would you like to take? This thought comes up only because, I have a number of, I always call it personal contacts, who have either cheated or been cheated on. And in a number of those relationships, like
maybe both. Maybe they've cheated and been cheated on.
Right, exactly. And then like some of those situations, like I'm good friends with like both sides of the party. Now, I've like resolved to the fact that I'm sticking by the person that I've known the longest. But there could be situations where like you see both the guy and the girl like in the same way, like in terms of like how strong of a relationship or bond you have. Like, what do you do then? Just as a friend, like whose side are you picking? Or is it not even about sides?
I think ultimately it's up to your friends, because if they are so selfish that they're like, you have to pick me and you can't like interact with this person anymore, then like they've fundamentally changed. Like the person who you were friends with is no longer the same. So if it comes to that point, I don't know.
Just be friends with neither.
Yeah, you just move on from both of them. You break up with them because they cheated on you emotionally.
I guess cheating on a spouse can lead to cheating with friends.
Yeah,
on friends. I didn't think about that way. Just out of curiosity, have you had?
Do I have friends?
Yeah. Do you know anyone like personally that? No, obviously not naming names, but
well, I guess like 50 to 60% of people that I know have cheated.
Half the people,
everyone's cheating. But I don't necessarily know. I know of friends who have gotten divorced. Like I have my first few divorced friends, but as far as I know, it wasn't because of cheating. But what about you? Yeah. So you do.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate. It really is. Again, I feel like 99% of those examples or like my personal experiences, a lot of it came down to more, I think, of like the situational thing, combined with them sort of like not being happy. And we'll get a little bit into like, okay, so like how do you avoid that situation? But,
yeah, we're going to get into a lot of ways to avoid cheating so that this podcast is substantive and helpful It's not like a how-to guide for how to cheat. But before we get into that, I am very like fascinated in the rise of these like alternative marriage or alternative relationship structures, the sort of polyamory and non-monogamy. So polyamory, as far as I understand it, is like you're basically in a relationship with multiple people, which seems very difficult.
Like, and you can get married to different...
I don't know if you're literally getting married to these
but
people.
You're just in different relationships.
I mean, maybe in Utah, but like you are like you have emotional and physical ties to multiple people.
Oh,
okay, so that's one.
It's like a loophole,
right? Well, I think what these people are saying is they're like, well, look at our biology, like. Let's acknowledge that we have interest in these other people, and let's like work with it. It's not cheating if it's not a secret. That would be like the fundamental thing, which I think would be like that alone is a worthwhile takeaway.
Right.
Then there's like the non-monogamy, which is like I think everyone has their own definition of this, but it would be like you might be married to someone, you might be in like a primary partnership, but you're like allowed to sleep with other people, but maybe you don't have the same like emotional ties to the other person.
Just kind of like an open relationship status.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't even know if this is really common or you just see it a lot on like TV and YouTube, but it seems to be on the rise.
I can see that happening. I mean, I do feel like we become more progressive, just like in all ways of life. And obviously this concept is a very progressive idea. So I can see that happening. It does remind me actually of I forget it was like This American Life or another podcast where they actually follow a couple who are like at the beginning of the show committed to getting married. Like I think they were actually engaged. So they were going to get married, but then they did this like weird experiment. And then maybe a part of it was because like, the guy wanted to do it with the girl where they say, okay, like before we get married, like we'll keep this relationship like an open status relationship, meaning like you can go off and like sleep with other people. Long story short, they ended up not getting married and they like fell out of love. So I think it's an interesting idea. I feel like, but you have to be the right sort of person and you have to have the right sort of partners who are as open-minded as you to make this work. Otherwise, it's kind of a slippery slope.
Yes. So that's something I think we should interview some people who are in these relationships for a future podcast. I think that would be interesting. Very provocative for our listeners, I feel.
Yeah.
Maybe for some good radio. Okay, let's get into the meat of it. Let's go into like how you can avoid cheating.
Yeah. So one of the things I have, which I think is going to be very obvious, but it's kind of like voting, talk and do it often, or at least
do what often?
Talk.
Oh, okay.
Like talk, interact, engage. Don't like reserve yourself to doing just like your own thing separate from your wife or your spouse. Because I think that's
have a relationship with your
spouse. I fundamentally do believe that not being together, and that doesn't have to mean like physically together, but I think that's obviously very helpful. But not being together, not interacting, not talking, even if it's over the phone, whatever it is, for like a prolonged period of time, it's just gonna create circumstance where cheating can happen. And so to avoid that, like you've got to sustain and maintain that, as challenging as it might be at certain points.
That's good advice. I got one. This is a little bit inspired from the last topic, but it's like, I think it's good to acknowledge like when you're attracted to someone else. Like if you can get into the atmosphere where like you're not threatened by the idea that for instance, your wife might find some other person attractive, right, or like their personality, or even in an alternate universe would like date someone else. Like, the world's a large place. We kind of covered this in another episode about Is She the One? So I think it's healthy to acknowledge the fact that if you're finding someone else attractive or whatever, like I'll tell Vera like, oh, look at how beautiful she is or whatever, and in a totally non-threatening way. But it allows me to at least like express something that I'm feeling without feeling deceitful.
Right.
I don't need to hide this from her. I'm not acting on it. It's just like an objective observation.
I will say, because you and I talked about that, on the previous episode, and I, as a guy, in a relationship with Christine, like I felt a little weird about doing stuff like that, like being out and maybe kind of identifying, that person's attractive. But like recently, I've started to do that just like here and there, like wherever the opportunity presents itself. And yeah, I think there's something very interesting about how that changes the dynamic of the relationship that I have with Christine in a more positive way, in a way that like it does feel more open. And yeah, that I'm not trying to like hide certain things or certain thoughts. And she does the same thing too now. Like we talked about the Olympics earlier, and I know maybe this is like kind of like a celebrity sensationalized example because it's easy for her to do, but
Like, look at that swimmer's abs.
yeah, well, exactly, right? It's like in the Olympics, there's this one swimmer, and he came on TV, and then like she just openly was talking about how like, oh, like this is a good-looking guy. But I didn't take any offense to that. I didn't find it very threatening. And I think to allow one another to express that openly in the relationship, I think is pretty healthy.
No doubt, though, like the more love that you and your partner share with one another, the more it allows you to be like confident and cool with the idea that your partner might be attracted to someone's personality or someone's like looks, and just sort of like let it be what it is. It's just like a fact. You can't repress it. Like it's hard enough to remain faithful as a couple. It's unrealistic, I think, to be mentally like pure in your wants and desires. It's a little ridiculous.
Agreed. There's another one in terms of avoiding cheating, which probably would predate anyone even getting married. But you remember, like many years ago, Britney Spears was in Vegas and she got married to this one guy, like
Jason Alexander. He had the same name.
Jason Alexander.
I think that was his name, because the joke was that it was the same name as the guy on Seinfeld, George.
But like, I'm just thinking to myself, like it's this quote unquote marriage that was rooted in like maybe 5 minutes of like an actual relationship.
So avoid Vegas is your point.
Yeah. Though I think the point here being like, again, obviously get to know the person before you like jump into something.
So like if you're thinking about cheating,
yeah.
Breathe.
Take a step back.
Take a step back.
Ask yourself, do I really know this person?
Yeah.
Well,
So like no impulsive cheating.
Yeah.
Only
better
well thought out cheating.
well thought through.
Yeah, well thought through.
Well planned.
Yeah.
Premeditated cheating.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's horrible.
Did you have more advice?
Yeah, maybe just what the last thing here is obviously if you or your spouse, one or the other or both of you recognize there's a problem in a relationship, yeah, like just being open to the idea of actually like figuring out how to solve that.
And this
instead
is
of like sweeping it under the rug.
This is probably the hardest thing for people to do, in part because people tend not to share any of the struggles we're going through. It's like the same sort of thing as how you visit someone's house and it's always clean, but we all know those houses aren't actually clean.
Right.
It's the same thing with people's marriages. All my friends, it looks like they have like the best relationships and marriages. That probably isn't true, but you know, people only share so much with one another. So I think that there's that whole unrealistic expectation things that we bring to every aspect of life, and expecting a marriage to be conflict free and for it to be like a Hallmark commercial, you know, like or what like a De Beers ring sort of thing.
Unrealistic.
You know? What is love? Does love even exist? Yeah. Anyway.
Unsustainable.
Yeah.
I agree. That's all I got, man. I think. Any other closing thoughts on how to avoid the cheating scenario?
I like that I'm ending the podcast on what is love? Does love even exist? That's about it. I mean, we didn't really get to the bottom of it, but we thought we'd discuss a juicy topic. It's too bad none of us have cheated on our wives, because it would make for great
I think the reality is like cheating is like, I don't know that you can get to the bottom of it. It's just like this weird, right?
I have sympathy for cheaters.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, well, it depends. It depends which
It depends why. It depends why.
Depends why.
Yeah.
But like, this is maybe one thing to talk about, which is that sometimes the person who actually does the act of cheating, they're not like exclusively at fault. Sometimes someone is like so emotionally and physically cut off from the partner that they're kind of not forced to cheat,
like
but
pushed away a little bit.
Yeah, they're pushed away. So I think like whenever someone cheats, it's good to like, if Vera cheated on me, I probably wouldn't, but I should, you know, think like, what have I done? It's worth sort of doing a little bit of that, because I'm probably guilty of something.
That's a good point. Let's end it on that note.
We're ending
That's
it on
a positive
that.
note. I like that. It's a good thought.
Good. Better. I don't think we have any new iTunes reviews.
No new iTunes reviews.
So people, please review us on iTunes. Just search for Mr. Husband.
Exactly. And obviously, we are going to try and continue to post these episodes on YouTube as well. So
we set up a horrible precedent, Will.
But it's not that much work.
Okay.
I think today's episode we'll kind of modify it a little bit, but go to YouTube if you want to see the visual version of this episode or this podcast. And what was this? Did you just search for?
Just search for Mr. Husband Podcast.
There you go.
Because if you just search for Mr. Husband, we're not really that popular. So you're going to get a lot of like Megan Trainor videos for some weird reason. Anyway.
I guess you could find worse content than that. But yeah, Mr. Husband Podcast.
Yeah.
And then we're on Facebook, just at the Mr. Husband. And please follow us, give us some comments there. And most importantly, subscribe and rate us on iTunes or Stitcher. I think that's all we got today.
That's all we got. But this is a secret. Right after this, we're going to record another podcast, which we'll post on Thursday or Friday.
No, I think we'll post it for next week.
Which will
post the storage thing.
Shoot, I really messed that up. Okay, never mind, people.
But at some point, we will come back to 2 a week. We just have to figure out some storage logistics.
We're too cheap to pay for storage, but if anyone wants to send us money, we'll accept it.
Yeah, people want to pay for it.
Okay, we're talking too long. This is getting too long. People are like, should I move on to the next podcast? We're just going to say goodbye, husbands, goodbye, wives, or peace out.
Peace out.
Husbands and wives.
There you go.
Peace.